Hey everybody, it is me, Victoria, and welcome back to Facilitating the Light Bulb Moments podcast. This is the podcast where we discuss the light bulb moments within our lives as well as other guests. And today's episode is called The Moment We Graduated, and we are joined by two UNG alums as well as SI alums, Cheyenne and Noah. You may be noticing if you've seen another episode that my co-host Anna is sadly not able to be here today, but the show must go on, and so we will miss her. But I am very excited still to have these two guests. So let's go ahead and let them in and introduce them to you. Hey everybody, it is me, Victoria, and welcome back to Facilitating the Light Bulb Moments podcast. This is the podcast where we discuss the light bulb moments within our lives as well as other guests. And today's episode is called The Moment We Graduated, and we are joined by two UNG alums as well as SI alums, Cheyenne and Noah. You may be noticing if you've seen another episode that my co-host Anna is sadly not able to be here today, but the show must go on, and so we will miss her. But I am very excited still to have these two guests. So let's go ahead and let them in and introduce them to you.
Hello. Can you hear
Hi,
me?
everybody. I can.
How about me? Am I
Yes,
good?
I
Okay.
can hear you too. How are y'all doing today?
Pretty good.
How early is it there, Noah?
That's not early. It's 9 o'clock at night.
Oh, I was backwards. Well, good.
All
We've
right.
worked late.
So if y'all could just quickly introduce yourselves, say where you're from, and kind of recount your UNG experience as well as your SI experience and kind of explain where you are now. So whoever wants to take it first.
You can go first, Noah. I always go
You want
first.
me to- I'm trying to get this. There we go. The weird little light. I'm in my apartment, but it's not great lighting. So I'm Noah Bryant. I grew up in Forsyth County, near the UNG Cumming campus, which it wasn't always there whenever I was growing up, but I think it was built in 2013. And then so that's how I ended up at UNG was when I was looking for a place that I wanted to go to college, after high school. I thought, oh, look, UNG's right here. I knew a bunch of friends who were going to UNG on the various campuses, and it's convenient and local, and I could, drive there and take classes pretty close to home. And while I was at UNG, I got involved with first got involved with student government on the Cumming campus, and I was treasurer, and then I replaced after the previous president, Cheyenne, went to the Dahlonega campus. I took over as president. I ran and did that for a couple years, then kind of stepped away from student government, and then came back after a bit of a reorganization, and I was Senate chair for the first sitting Senate for student government. But then I did stuff with the History Society and Archaeology Society, and I helped found one of the first generation college student honor societies at UNG, Alpha Alpha Alpha. And then all throughout while doing all that, I was also facilitating first on the Cumming campus. And then after I went to the Gainesville campus, I moved into a mentor role. And I just did purely mentoring for a bit. And then my last year, I facilitated back on the Cumming campus because I had some work to do there. That was, just didn't have any classes there, but I lived nearby, so I decided I could still facilitate and work on campus, and then just do that. Yeah, and then right now, I'm in my master's program in Wales at Bangor University, So I'm studying here for a master's degree in Celtic archaeology after getting the Fulbright grant to come here and study.
Awesome. I am Cheyenne now Hudson, the facilitator formerly known as Cheyenne Chester. I got married this summer, so that's a name change. Um, Similar to Noah, I grew up in Dawsonville, like right on that Dawson Forsyth line, though. So coming was very close for me as far as UNG campuses went. So actually, I started out there, and that is how Noah and I met. I originally went to UNG because I did not know what I wanted to do. And why was I going to move far away from home if there was not a college that I thought was going to be great at my major? So I started off at UNG for the closeness to home. And then after getting plugged in with SGA as serving as the president for the coming campus, and then also with SI, like Noah being one of the first facilitators at that campus. For math and history is what I facilitated for. I didn't want to leave. And then over the years, I got drawn to teaching. So now I am a middle school teacher at Dawson County Middle School in the town where I grew up. And throughout UNG, I stepped away from SGA to focus more on SI. I only facilitated about 3 semesters, I believe, and became a mentor both at the Gainesville campus and the Dahlonega campus, really focusing my role more as a full-time mentor and senior mentor than anything, helping train those new facilitators we had and devoting my support and my time to those kind of things like observations and just one-on-one meetings and planning events and, building community and all the fun things that make SI so great and unique. Then at the Dahlonega campus, I served as secretary, treasurer, and something else that I cannot remember the title of in the UNG Education Club. Ultimately, my last role was treasurer. And then when Noah became the Senate chair for SGA, I was the education.
Oh no, Cheyenne's internet strikes again.
And
Oh, there we go.
throughout, I think I might have frozen. No, I'm back.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did. So I worked with Noah as while he was Senate chair, representing the education majors. And after that, something Noah left out is we actually got one of the UNG awards right before we both graduated. Mine was the Spirit of Excellence, and was yours the Spirit of Service, Noah?
Yeah, it was the Nighthawk Spirit of Service Award. It was the university, like SGA and the university had kind of done some of the end of the year awards that we used to give out, and they came up with all of these new awards and stuff. And both Cheyenne and I have mine. I still have mine. It's well, not with me. It's in my office at home in the U.S.
But that was a big honor, I know, for the both of us after just being so involved at UNG throughout the years. And I think we both credit SI as a big part of why we earned those awards, because it really helped us with our leadership. We both went to L Cubed through SGA and just kind of really used SI as a platform for all our other leadership roles I think we took on. And I credit, a lot of the things that I was able to accomplish because of the leadership that SI invested into me. And so here I am now teaching and using all of my facilitator strategies in my classroom and just living my dreams.
Awesome. So Cheyenne already kind of touched on this, but like throughout college, like sometimes you don't know what you're going into eventually. So did y'all have goals that you started with in college that may have like changed as y'all have like gone through? Like, did you ever change your major, or did you ever like be like, this is not what I want to do? And like, how did that affect y'all?
I know for me, I went in, I thought originally when I was going in that I wanted to do history, like as my degree program. And UNG had well, still has a history with a teacher certification, because I was like, oh, how fun would that be, to teach like in a high school or something. And then I got in, started doing it, and I was like, okay, I really like through SI, I really like kind of the instructional side of it, and working with students and really getting them to understand material. But I was like, I don't think I want to teach high school or middle school. Just I was like, I don't think that's for me. But I was like, I still want to do something in that field. So I just decided to go with a pure history degree. But with that, you at UNG, you get to pick a minor to go with your major. So I was trying a couple different classes, and our advisor was like, well, typically, students, if they're going to get a history degree, they minor in philosophy or it was like philosophy, anthropology, or something else. I can't remember the third one, but I was like, oh, I'll try a philosophy course. Love the course, couldn't minor in it. I was like, I was told like what the other classes were like for a minor, and I was like, can't do it. So I decided to minor in anthropology. Well, just taking anthropology and archaeology courses changed everything. And I was like, okay, I no longer want to, or because my goal at that point was, oh, okay, get a bachelor's degree in history and then a master's degree in history. And then maybe you can, lecture at a university or something. But that changed to bachelor's degree in history with a minor in anthropology to a master's degree in Celtic archaeology in a different country. And then now, hopefully being able to teach some at some university or something, do something with my archaeology degree. But yeah, I think SI really kind of showed me, the skills of, not necessarily teaching, but to to present material in a way that students can understand and to change the way that you present material.
And mine was flipped from Noah. So I started out as just a math major. Um, I had no clue what I wanted to do, but I was good at math, and that's what I had going for me. So I'm like, I love math. I often refer to math as God's poetry because it would exist even if we didn't study it. And to me, every other field is us trying to understand something, but math is just woven into our souls and our DNA and everything. And I think it's gorgeous. Um, so I was going to do math. And then I thought maybe I could be a math professor because I talk too much to have a desk job. And that's all that I can think of with math. And then I realized how much research professors do. And I don't want to do that my whole life. So I switched to be a math major with an education minor, essentially the same degree Noah was going for, but his was history. And that would put me on track to teach high school. And then I realized that middle schoolers to me are the most fun age that there possibly is, because in elementary school, you babysit and you walk them from class to class and take them to art and you go on potty breaks. And I don't want to do that. But in sixth grade, they're still fun like elementary schoolers, but they're more independent. So it's that good in between of elementary and high school. They're excited to learn. They want the teacher to like them. They want to be successful in school. And also, I feel like that's the most influential part of any child's life. That's when I can make the biggest impact. I almost feel like in high school, you have to undo some things and say, it's okay that you got on this bad track. We can change. In middle school, I have more of a chance to prevent those bad decisions and be an influence on who they are as they're deciding to be. I had some really awesome middle school teachers, so that also swayed me that direction. And then when I changed to be a middle school education major, you actually pick two contents at UNG. And most people are either ELA and social studies or math and science. And I am not taking any other science classes at UNG. I took physics and astronomy, and I did not want to go anywhere near chemistry or bio. So I decided to be math and social studies, and that was solely because of SI. So my very first semester at UNG, I was in Miss McEwen's history class, US history at the Cumming campus. Noah and I both ended up facilitating for her.
And I
But
still
my
keep in
first
contact
semester,
with Miss McEwen.
oh my
I
gosh,
I emailed her a couple days ago. We emailed back and forth.
she's phenomenal. She had a SI in that class, Madison, and I started going to SI classes because that was the first time in my life that I ever had to study for anything. I guessed through high school, got straight A's on every test because I could just figure it out. And college was not that way for Cheyenne. Quickly realized. So I had to study for Miss McEwen's test, and our SI made it come to life. I hated history all through like public school. And we were doing a lesson. I'll never forget it. I know Sarah and Emily remember this story because I tell it a lot. But we were talking about Sherman's March to the Sea, and I knew the dates and I knew all of the like points, right? But that's not how Miss McEwen's test worked. She wanted big picture. She wanted me to give a response. And so Madison asked me, but Cheyenne, Sherman's a real person. Why would he want to do this? What is his motivations? What is his feelings? What are other people feeling? Why are they following him? And that was the first time that history ever became someone's life to me, rather than just memorizing facts. And it changed the way I looked at the whole subject. I enjoyed every history course from that point forward in college. And so I actually picked social studies as my second content. So I'm certified to teach math and social studies from 4th through 8th grade. And I thoroughly enjoyed all of those college courses. And I don't think if I attended those SI courses that my outlook on that subject would have ever changed. And when I was student teaching social studies, I feel like I brought so much more interactive and engaging and meaningful lessons to my students than if I just still looked at history as memorization, which it's so not. It's such a story, and it has so many like emotions and lessons in it that people overlook. So that is how my initial goals of being a math professor that did math research for their whole life changed. And now I teach 11-year-olds.
So did you end up facilitating for that same course that you had it for? Oh, that's
Yep.
so cool.
Yeah, I think I did history 2111 and 2112 before I even did math. So I actually facilitated history more than I did math.
Yeah, I came into SI, it was a bit it was like, for me, it was like reverse of a lot of stuff.
Yes.
So Cheyenne and I knew each other. We had met each other in SGA, not at SI.
He was treasurer and I was president at the Cumming campus is how we met.
Yeah. And I didn't have a facilitator in McEwen's world history course. There was not a facilitator there. I don't think there had ever been a facilitator for that course.
We both
just for
I had
US
done
history.
the US, yeah. So you were the first person to ever do world history at McEwen.
Yeah, but I took world history before I took her US history course. So I had to do it all on my own, and I didn't have a facilitator there. And I was Cheyenne was talking to me one day, like after an SGA meeting in the room, and she was like, "Oh, hey, SI's hiring student workers to be facilitators. If you're interested in it, you should apply." And at that point, like we had been working together for a while in SGA, and I was like, "Oh, I might do it." So I looked into it, and then there was Sarah and Emily both were like, well, if he's gonna apply to it, he needs to see a session. So I ended up going to your session, one of your US history sessions, I think, and sat in on it. And then I was like, oh, this is awesome. I was like, I love this, I love the way that the material is covered and the way that it really brings the topic to life and makes it more easily understandable. And so then after that, we did the interview, I got hired, and then I facilitated for world history too. And then I did that for, I don't even remember how many semesters. I think I know 3, but I think because there was a couple where I did it for multiple semesters in a row and then stopped.
And then you
went to the Gainesville campus and just did mentor, but then I went back to cover some open courses. So yeah, it was weird because I came through SI through Cheyenne, not through my own SI facilitator.
It's interesting. Everybody has a different story on how they came into SI. Like everybody has their own little niche. But it's interesting how y'all came from 2 different college disciplines and ended up facilitating for the same course. That's really interesting. But I don't think I've ever seen a history session. I've been to a lot of sessions, but I don't think I've been to a history one.
Oh, yeah, the history sessions are a lot of fun because there's a lot of material and
Yeah.
you can cover it in so many different ways.
Oh, you can do like a good timeline. I never get tired of a good timeline, but there's 10 different ways to do a timeline in
Mhm.
Yep.
history. Everything is just so broad and big picture when you facilitate it right
I
that it
just want to
really
say,
brings it to life.
me and Cheyenne literally wrote the book on changing up different activities for session because during COVID,
COVID summer.
over the summer during COVID when everyone was off, she and I were working throughout the summer to create basically a guidebook on adapting your sessions to online sessions or hybrid sessions. And we
Yeah.
wrote like so many like, oh, if you're going to do a timeline activity, here's 6 different iterations of a timeline activity. And I was like, so me and Cheyenne, we can say we literally wrote the book on it. I mean, it's not that big of a book. I think it's like 30 pages, but
It's
still.
still a good bit. It
It's
had
still
tiny
pretty
font.
significant.
Tiny font.
Yeah, tiny font.
Yeah. And I think Noah and I always work together in a way that really challenges the both of us. So I would be like, I bet we could come up with another Noah. And he'd be like, yeah, we could add more detail on this one. And we just pushed each other and challenged ourselves to be more and more creative. Like, this can't be the only way you can do this. We could come up with at least 4 more.
Yeah, I remember specifically we were on a call one time over Zoom, or maybe it was Teams, and we were sitting there editing because we had just like a Teams doc, so we were editing it together. It was collaborative document, and we were on a call, and I was like, okay, well, how could you use this for like math? Or how could you use this for biology? Because I was like, I don't feel like this activity can be used in this subject. And then we would go back and forth and we'd be like, oh, I guess you could do it this way and just not do this, but you could do this.
Yeah, we never liked saying this can't work for this one thing. We didn't like exceptions like that to the rules. We wanted everything to work for everybody. And it does if
Yeah.
you push yourself to think that way. That's why SI is great.
Yeah, it seems like y'all really wanted to be involved and make SI the best thing it could be for people, which is awesome. That's really cool. What do y'all think were like your fondest memories like throughout college? I know y'all are both talking about like SI a lot, but for anybody who's non-SI or who's just at UNG, what do you think your like favorite memories were?
Some things that make me smile. It's about a sign, it's not. Just like seeing people around that just like the community and homey feeling. It might have been a former student in SI that was, I used to facilitate for years ago, or it might have been someone I was in a club meeting with or just had a class together. But I just love that no matter where I went, if I saw a familiar face, we always waved or said hey or just checked in. It just always felt so comfortable. And that goes for, I've been on 3 of the 5 campuses. So Cumming, Gainesville, Dahlonega, to me, it didn't matter. When I walked by, it's always felt like home.
Yeah, I mean, pretty much, yeah, to reiterate, yeah, because like I said, I was involved with a lot of student organizations like Cheyenne outside of SI, whether not just student government and stuff. So it was always really nice because there is, there's always like for everyone. And if there's not one for you, you can start one in the process. That was always my big thing when I was in SGA, was like, okay, you have this interest. Well, there's not an organization on campus that really meets, fulfills whatever interest or whatever interests you. But, if you and 4 of your friends want to do something, then you can start an organization. The best part is you could get funding for it. So that was always my big thing at UNG was there was always, if not a place already for someone, the ability to create that space yourself was, really easy to come across.
And that's something that's super special that not every university offers or supports. I really feel like that UNG is one of the universities that means it when they say students first, that there wasn't a department that I couldn't go to that would stop what they're doing and help me and make sure I felt supported and got what I needed before I left that room. And I was the person that went to the offices and asked for help when I needed it. And it didn't matter if I hadn't been to the coming campus for a year. If I walked into that building, the people at the front desk told me, hey, like they remembered you and they cared enough to remember your name and stop what they're doing and ask what you needed and how they could support you.
Yeah.
Yeah, because, well, that's one of the reasons I chose UNG, because I'm not even from the area. I'm from 4 hours south of Dahlonega.
Okay.
So I chose it because I like the smaller class sizes and everything. And now I'm in Hogue all the time, which is really fun because I see at least 10 people I know all the time at all
I
times.
couldn't imagine being a freshman in a class of 200. You wouldn't even know your professor. They wouldn't know your name. How are you going to be successful in that?
Yeah.
That
No,
was that was one of the things too, other than just being, nearby home. I wanted that kind of small class feel. So I had friends who went to other universities inside Georgia and outside of Georgia, and they were like, "Oh, I'm taking my English, 1101 class, so English Composition 1," and they're like, "Yeah, it's me and 300 students in a lecture hall," and they're like, "We have 6 TAs, and I have to meet with the TA." With 3 different TAs before I can talk to the professor. And they're like, if I email the professor, the professor forwards the email to their TA. And they're like, so I never talked to the professor. And I'm like, I don't like that. And that's why when I was looking for universities in the UK for my Fulbright, I looked for small class sizes. So even for master's programs, which are typically smaller anyway, mine was a really small cohort. There was only about 8 of us. And then out of those 8, only 5 were full time. So,
and Noah's somebody that has always advocated for creating a relationship with your professor. And I would say too, he and I have held on to those relationships we form with our professors as like a mentor, because I could name several now that I feel like I could go back to, especially my education professors, and say I'm struggling with something with teaching, and they would be there for me and they would remember me and they would help me. And places that aren't like UNG, you don't even have that opportunity to make that connection. So even just with staff, with professors, with students, it's just a special place.
yeah, I had 2 professors who were not working graduation during the graduation ceremony, so they weren't in the ceremony. They had already done their day of working the ceremony, and they drove back up to Dahlonega so that, and at that point it was during COVID, so they couldn't actually be in the room, but they came and saw like me afterwards, like after I had gotten my degree and kind of walked out. They came and saw me, and we all took photos and stuff. I was like, you don't typically, I don't think, get that at most universities where people, professors will drive, 45 minutes, an hour away from their house to not even see you walk, just to see you after you walk.
Yep. That's really cool. Yeah, I'm in a principles of marketing class right now because I'm a marketing major. And I remember seeing a Instagram post from UGA because I have a lot of friends there. And my class in marketing, I thought it was big because it was like 40 people, and theirs was 250 people. And I was like, I don't know how I could have never done that, because I am very much the person who's in the front row. I want to be there. I want to talk to her. And just that was, I mean, it works for some people, but I've learned that it's not me.
Like Cheyenne said it a while ago, like I'm really into building good, relationships and like very good working relationships with faculty and stuff. And it was great. It worked really well as a facilitator, building a good working relationship with my faculty member, Miss McEwen, that we were paired with. But then like just general, I had classes with other professors and stuff, and building those relationships so that I have them. And it worked out really well for me when I was applying for Fulbright, because they know you, they know your name, they know like your interest, what your, not just like personal interest, but like research interest and stuff. And when I was applying for Fulbright, I needed letters of recommendation from people. And, talking to different professors and stuff, they say, like, hey, they were just saying, I have students come in and ask me, I teach them one class, and then 3 years later, they're applying for a scholarship or for a master's degree program, and they ask for a letter of recommendation. And they're like, but they never came to my office hour. I never saw them like, within the 3 years since I taught them. I don't know anything about them. And they're like, so I can't really write a good letter of recommendation for someone because they're just, basically asking me because, I'm a professor in the subject that they're looking to, go into. And they're like, so it was really important to make those connections and to use those to your advantage whenever. And then like I have an English professor that we still keep up with, like I keep up with them all the time. And like when I was looking at maybe going into a lecturer position at a university, relatively recently, after or when I get my finish my degree program, I was like, hey, can I run this by you? It's a different subject, but do you feel like this is a good lesson plan? Because they've been teaching for years, at a collegiate level. And I was like, do you feel like this would be a good lesson plan? Like, or I guess it was more of a syllabus. It was for an entire semester. And they were like, no, this looks perfect. They're like, maybe change up your requirements for essays to kind of reduce them down if it was just an intro class. But they said other than that, and so if I didn't have that relationship, then I would kind of be on my own if I get a position somewhere to be like, okay, now I've got the job. How do I actually do it? So it's nice to have that relationship and to have kind of colleagues that you can like call upon.
On that too, even just having a resume, you don't want to put someone down as a reference that doesn't truly know you. And because when they're on the phone with someone, you really can't hide the fact that you don't know that student that well, or that you don't know, anything about what kind of teacher they would be or anything like that. So when I was able to put previous professors and then Sarah and Emily from SI as a reference, I knew that they knew me and they knew why I wanted to be a teacher and they knew what skills I had that would make me a good teacher. So I was confident in those references because I had that relationship. I know, and I kind of got on a tangent about
Sorry.
relationships, but it's so important.
Yeah.
So if you're listening to this, maybe take that into consideration. It's a very helpful thing that too many people overlook because you feel uncomfortable about it or you don't know how to go about it. But it makes one of the greatest impacts, I would say.
And one last thing before we move on so we can get back on topic. I know this just from talking to different professors and stuff, both in the US and now in the UK. Professors and faculty, lecturers, whatever, they really want to build those relationships because it makes their job easier and more enjoyable when they actually know the students that they're teaching. It becomes less of just a job for them where it's like, okay, I have 4 classes this semester and each class has 25 students in it. And it's like, I'm not going to know any of the students in it. It's boring to them if that's the way that they go about their teaching. But if they know students and they're like, oh yeah, you come into my office hour and you talked for like 3 minutes about a question you had on an assignment. But then for 15 minutes, we just talked about what you're interested in, like researching. And then they can incorporate that into how they teach and what they're teaching. And it makes it more enjoyable for everyone. And they want that.
Yeah, that it is really important because professors are here for a reason. Like they're here to help you. I wouldn't have had this job if it wasn't for a professor because he was my business communications one. And I went to his office hours because he actually made it like a requirement because he really wanted to like make a relationship with his students. And it was one of his first years teaching with me. It was actually his first year in person. So he was like, you all have to come to my office hours at least once. And I did, and I was like, listen, I don't really have anything I need help with per se, but I'm interested in your line of work because he worked at Coke for 20 years doing marketing analytics. And I was like, I really want to know more about that. So he got me put with a lot of people on LinkedIn and stuff. And they like have all reached out to me. And I was like, this is awesome. And then he was like, oh, there's this job for a marketing intern at SI, and I think you should do it, and I'll be your reference. And I was like, okay. And now I have this job. So it it really does help.
That's awesome.
Get those relationships, people.
You get those relationships. But besides, like, off of relationships, do y'all think you like built other like habits or stuff you did in college that has helped you like throughout your professional career now, like what you're doing?
100%. When I was making my resume, some of the best advice that I got on building it, because especially in teaching, that's their first impression of me, before they even meet me and schedule that interview. And it was to not overlook the skills that you have developed as a college student and a student worker, because the things that I just got used to, that this is what I do and this is what I'm good at, those are valuable skills in the workplace. Like making a meeting agenda. No one, I can't tell you how many meetings we planned for an SGA and SI and clubs. That's a skill because not everyone can do that effectively.
It's hard.
Taking minutes is a skill. Building schedules is a skill. Trying to coordinate when other people are busy versus when you're busy, like what you did to schedule this podcast. That's a skill because not everyone can do that, especially if you're going into a workplace where a younger generation is a minority. All these things that we are so used to because we are in this technical age, it's a skill that companies and organizations should value. So I really picked up on just a lot of habits that became these second nature things I do, and I realized that they were skills. So I don't know if that actually answers the question you were asking, but
Oh, no, it totally does.
definitely like all those organizational things and all those things that helped me be more productive and efficient in getting my job done. I realized that those were valuable assets that I had that I should market, because in an interview you are trying to sell yourself to this place. And I am someone valuable that you should want on your team for all these different reasons. And there's so many things that people overlook that make them valuable because it's what they're used to. It's their normal expectation of themselves when really it sets you apart.
Yeah, I mean, pretty much the same. I've always felt like I was pretty detail oriented and stuff, and I kind of brought that in. But really being able to be self-motivated was a big part of what stuff that I learned in like in college and being a student worker in SI and other positions and stuff, is being able to, take whatever you want to do and set those goals and stuff that you want to complete, and to set that timeline and things like that. Like the big thing I always remember was like when we were establishing the Senate for student government, we needed a set of rules and stuff to actually like go how you run a meeting and stuff like that, and how many votes are required to do this and that. So like I went on this huge like parliamentary research rabbit hole, and over the course of like a week, once over the summer, I wrote and drafted like all of the Senate rules and stuff. So it's like, how many people are required before you can hold a meeting and stuff like that, and being very detail oriented and stuff, and applying that skill to the actual like job that you were given and that you had to complete, was something I really kind of honed in during college.
Yeah, and I would say my biggest thing that I've realized is so valuable, and it came mostly from SI, was giving feedback. Anyone can give an opinion, but not everyone can give feedback. Anyone can say, this is what I thought, but true, like helpful, beneficial feedback takes things, whether they're, positives or things like criticisms that people could work on, and you make it productive. I've been able to do that with peer observations in teaching. In any role you'll ever have, there's someone that's going to have to be trained and someone that's going to have to train them. And if you could be that person, then you are an asset. It doesn't matter if you are going into marketing, if you're going into history, if you're going into math, teaching, you name it. There's always going to be a new person, and there's always going to be somebody helping train that new person to do that job. And if you can give that person feedback in a way that is going to help them improve, and therefore help the organization, help your team, and help them, then that is such a big skill. So just learning how to communicate in a way that you can give advice, give detailed examples, give specific situations that you saw and observed, rather than just saying, oh yeah, I liked this. I noticed this. I didn't like that. That's not helpful to anyone. And that's a skill that, even in group projects or just things like that, as a regular college student, or in a club, letting someone know how the meeting went, being able to articulate your opinion in a way that is beneficial is such an important skill, I think. And it helps you learn too, because if you can't identify what you liked or didn't like about a meeting or about whatever presentation someone just did, then you're not able to really process feedback for yourself either, I don't think.
Yeah, I've been actually really recently kind of using that skill from SI, like the feedback and kind of helping instruct someone, especially that we got as mentors, because when we were both like full-time mentors, doing that, where a lot of us, our feedback is instructional in nature, and so you're trying to train new facilitators to improve upon what they're already doing. I'm currently working as part of my Fulbright grant. I'm doing 3D modeling of artifacts from a university excavation that took place over like 7 years. And so we're taking artifacts and photographing them. A bunch of times you take like 100 photos of an object at different angles and then put it into a software that basically builds a 3D model from it. But my professor here, that's my master's supervisor, she's never used the program, done it. She doesn't know how it works. So like I've been teaching her how to do it as part of the project, so that after I'm gone, she can teach other people and other students and stuff like that. So I'm using that like, okay, what we did here was good, but maybe next time on the next model, instead of selecting this way, why don't we do it this way? And it should improve this and things like that. And we're working through it, and it's been interesting. I've noticed it recently because that's been what I've been doing for the past couple weeks when I'm not writing my dissertation.
Yeah, that's really awesome. So since we are about to finish up on time, we always like to do a little story time where you get to recount your favorite story that you have from SI. And I know y'all probably have a lot. So it could just be something in general, or it could be just like a specific thing, whatever y'all want it to be.
I have so many.
I think mine, and this is going to be really not really bad, but it's going to be funny because it has nothing to do when I've been in a session either that I facilitated for or that I was observing someone doing. I think that some of my best like SI memories are stuff that we did kind of still within SI but outside of SI, like outside of the job capacity, where like we did a lake day, and
We just had
I
one.
was gonna say, I think I saw on Instagram that you just
We
did a lake
just
day.
had one.
And then like we did a Halloween costume competition one year. We've done I mean we did a day at the corn maze.
Mhm.
So we've done all these things and stuff like that. And I always remember that whenever we would do like certain events and stuff, I always made playlists to go along with them. So like I still have it on my Spotify, the SI Lake Day playlist. And there was like a
It's like
throwback. Yeah, it was called SI Lake Day. And then there was like a throwback playlist that we did when we went and had like a SI get together one time. And then there was a group of facilitators that, because Oconee is so far away from everyone, it's like over an hour away from like the Gainesville campus. A group of facilitators and mentors met up and carpooled to Oconee, and I was planning on being there, but then something came up and I couldn't go. But I made them an Oconee road trip playlist, and I still have it on I still have it on my Spotify. And every now and then I'll like pull up those playlists and be like, what did I add to these? And I always remember that because that was always a lot of fun, just to kind of getting to know people in different, and getting to know people who weren't, especially as as you get more and more into your program in college and you get more into your major specific classes, that you just out of virtue of how it works, you meet less and less new people because you start having more and more overlap of the people that you have in your courses as you get more and more specific.
Yeah.
But being a part of SI, it was great because I would meet people who were, doing a physics degree or a math degree or an English degree or philosophy, because they were all facilitating for different stuff. And you would still get to meet people who had like interesting things to talk about other than just, for me, history, because it's like, oh, okay, all we ever talk about with all my friends from, class is history or archaeology stuff. So.
And if you think about it, if Noah and I weren't involved and didn't take that step to get involved in organizations, we never would have met.
Yeah.
No, and now I consider Noah one of my closest friends, but we would have never had a single class together. Our paths never would have crossed. If we both didn't join SGA, we literally would not have met. He would have never became an SI, probably never heard of it. And our lives would be so different and sad.
Yeah.
So
we need to do playlists again. Apparently that stopped.
Oh, I tell you what, just tell me what the theme is. I think this is not, it was sort of an SI thing. The university did a conference one time. Oh, Cheyenne, do you remember what it was a nautical themed conference, and I cannot remember which one it was.
oh my gosh, I'll remember it tomorrow.
I think you went to it, and that's why I'm trying to
When I
remember.
went to with Sarah and Emily, I was the only student there.
That may have been it. I don't remember. It was
Southeastern Learning Center Conference, SECLCA.
Oh, I know. I don't think that was it. But
the one
whatever it was the university was hosting it, and they came to me and they're like, "No, we need a playlist to play in the background. Can you make us a nautical themed Spotify playlist for us?" And so that was a lot of fun. And then we did training one year as fairy tale themed. And so I had all these like fairy tale themed Spotify playlists to go along with the training that we did for oh gosh, what was I training that year?
That brought some good memories. Mine was on planning, and I did the 3 little pigs. Don't have no straw planning, don't have wood planning, have some brick planning, y'all.
The strongest of planning. Yep.
Okay.
I always remember training. Training was fun.
Training is fun. Can I have 3 favorite memories if they're short?
Sure.
Okay. Number one time last minute, a history facilitator on the Gainesville campus got a stomach bug. So I covered their session because it was one of those like, it's about to happen in an hour. They're going home. They're sick. We don't want to cancel on these kids. And I was walking around the Gainesville campus about a week later, and the students recognized me. The whole herd of them were walking out of class, and they go, "Hey, facilitator." And it was just so nice that those people recognized me. They didn't know my name, but I was just, "Hey, facilitator." It was
Close
just
enough.
fine. My second favorite memory is when I was a mentor at the Dahlonega campus. There was a student. I will not name them in case I don't want to be named, but it was somebody that like, I just kept observing this poor girl over and over again because I really liked the time that her session was in that building because I had a class in it right before. So like I just saw her like every other week. And I worried that like I was self-conscious about, should I be giving other people my attention? Should I like go somewhere else? Does she want someone else's opinion? I'm seeing her like every other time. She probably wants to hear from somebody else at this point. And there was a time that she thanked me for coming and seeing her so much because she was able to see, like she felt that I was invested in her and able to see her growth. And there was this time where 2 students in her session were doing a matching activity together, and they were like whispering, barely saying anything to her. But that was the first time that either of them actually ever spoke in session. So if I had not seen her all semester, this was about October at that point. If I had not saw her the past month and a half, I would have thought that that was the least collaborative thing in the world. But because I had been following her journey with those students for so many weeks, I was able to celebrate that with her because that was a huge triumph. And I couldn't imagine if I was like, why weren't your students even talking to each other? Because I didn't know her story and their story. So that was just wonderful that I was able to make that impact by seeing her so often. My third favorite moment, this is with someone that's actually still on the team. They were, and this is the importance of being vulnerable, they were struggling with a class and just felt that they were being a disappointment because they weren't achieving in it as far as like as well as they thought they should. And at that point, I was a senior mentor. I was pretty much one of the people helping run the majority of most of the trainings and meetings and things that we did. And so I was always busy hopping around, buzzing, and I shared with that person that the class they were struggling in, that I actually failed and had to retake, only class I've ever failed in my life. And they said, "You?" And I said, "Yeah, me. I struggled with that class and had to retake it. So if you pass it even or have to retake it too, like there's nothing to be ashamed of. It's tough." And just told me like, I never would have imagined that you would have struggled with that. You just seem like you got it all together. And so that was like a life lesson for me that, those things that make us vulnerable and relatable, that we should never hide it. Because at that point in my SI career, like I knew what I was doing, had it under control. We were doing all the things. Noah and I were just going around SGA and SI and earning awards, living our lives. But like, we're still students and we're still people and we still have struggles. And if me being honest and vulnerable about that um, could help somebody, just feel related to, feel a little bit less alone, feel a little bit more secure, then it's worth it. And so from that point on, I was so much more open about my struggles rather than just like plastering smile on my face. I'm doing great. Classes aren't hard. Grades are perfect. Living my life. Like I became so much more upfront and honest about just like normal college student struggles at that point. And it changed my leadership 100%. So those are my three favorite things. Three of them. There's probably like 12 more.
No, I can't think about all my favorite stuff. There's
My
so
favorite
much.
thing is meeting Noah.
Oh, so sweet. All right. Well, thank you both so much. I think we could go on forever, but time has sadly run
Stay
out.
tuned for part 2 with Cheyenne and Noah.
Becomes a whole series. It's like part 12.
Yeah, part 2 of our 35-part series on Cheyenne and Noah's adventures through UNG.
Listen, we could have a whole podcast just about that summer and COVID.
Oh God, I remember. So I was telling some colleagues about what some of our assignments turned into that first semester when it was like we were in the middle of the semester and then COVID happened.
I was in the middle of student teaching in elementary school. I don't want to hear.
But I was like, yeah, so this assignment turned into this assignment. And I was like, and this assignment was not easy at all. So
Mine turned into hypotheticals. What would you do if you hypothetically taught this lesson and a student hypothetically reacted this way?
well, hypothetically, I would do this.
And hypothetically, we are out of time.
Yeah, I know.
Thank you for having us. And thank you to whoever watched this. And happy SI Appreciation Week.
Oh, yeah. Probably won't be when this comes out, but
yeah, no. No, Cheyenne, we can't date the podcast. We can't tell them that it's September, I don't actually know, 29th at 9 o'clock British Mean Time.
Different time. But whatever, it's fine. They know our secret this time. They won't next time.
Vulnerable.
Yeah, you gotta be vulnerable.
Build those relationships.
But yeah, thank you to everyone who watched this podcast. Like I said last week, if you had any light bulb moments or your aha moments, either in this podcast or somewhere else, feel free to let us know on our Instagram, UNG_SI. Please follow us because I post cool stuff if I will say
Yes,
so
you do.
myself.
I still
Me-
follow.
Yeah, see, me
I
and
got
my other.
notifications on those. Turn those post notifications on, guys. You don't want to miss a thing.
Come on, get with it. Yeah, it's me and two other amazing people, and we really try. So please, it would make me happy. But yeah, so until next time, bye everybody.
Goodbye.
Bye.